Afternoon, everybody. I am Jonathan from Boredom Sated.
I'm Boris from Boredom Sated.
And I'm Michael from Boredom Sated.
So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the new 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons book, Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. There's that book. So I'm going to just go over some of the ideas we're going to talk about. And then we'll give our opinions on some of the new things that it came out with. So the first thing that we have to talk about, which is one of the new... I had an argument about this literally for an hour yesterday with my 5th edition group, which is, what is the usefulness of the way they decided to do the character race changes? When I say race changes, what they did was they made it so that you have the ability now to basically choose what stat buffs you give your character, because they don't want to pigeonhole you into having a high con dwarf or having a high, strength orc. You can do whatever you want with your stat increases. You have a choose to have a +2, you have choose to have a +1. You don't have to go in the same direction. If there's a skill that your character gets that you don't like, you can change it for a different skill. There's tools that you would normally be able to get that you can change for different tools and things like that. Personally, I think this is I don't like it at all, because I feel like this is for the mini-maxer who doesn't actually want to mini-max, because you don't want to change your race to something that mini-maxes. You want to play what race you want to play, but you still want to mini-max your character.
I don't understand the purpose of that unless you're trying to be like, oh, I'm this race, but I want to be the exception of the entire race so that I can play something that the race is not usually associated with. For instance, I want to be, okay, I'm the dwarf, but instead of a high con dwarf, I want to be the agile dwarf. And I'm like, well, then play an elf. I understand sort of the concept, but I disagree. I'm too much of a traditionalist.
I agree with you guys, but you can still play a high dex dwarf. You just have to put in the points as you get them.
Exactly. That's the argument I made. You can still play against character without... That's the reason why I said it's for many people who want to play against type but want to mini-max against type. Because you can still play a high charisma dwarf. You can still play a high constitution elf. You just have to work a little harder at it. I don't understand the purpose of this. Now, I know that this is something that a lot of people wanted and a lot of people clamored for, but I don't entirely understand the reasoning. The second thing that a lot of people were very adamant about putting in this book and very happy about was the ability to change your subclass. Basically, given us enough downtime, you now have the ability to change what subclass you are playing in case you don't like your subclass.
Wait, hold on.
Then why did you pick it originally?
Because you wanted to try something, but it didn't work out the way you thought it would.
Did you wait? Hold on.
Okay.
Say for instance, so at 3rd level you get to choose one of your subclasses. Okay. Say you're 5th level. Say you're 5th level, and you're like, okay, this didn't turn out the way I thought it would. Do you now say, for instance, we go with the simple fighter, and he picks Battle Master just for this appointment, and suddenly he decides to be one of the new ones, the Rune Knight. Okay, I understand. That's a cool class. At 5th level, does he suddenly become a 5th level Rune Knight, or does he now as a 1st level Rune Knight and a...
No. That would be too overpowered.
Okay.
What happens is you switch from being a 5th level character that has the subclass of Battle Master to a 5th level character with the subclass of Rune Knight. So you would change all of your things that were Battle Master become Rune Knight. What this does is basically make it so you have the ability to change your character without actually remaking your character.
You know why they did it? So people that said, well, these new ones are cool. Can I play this one? And they can do it without changing their character.
Exactly right.
That is a fair way to assume it, yeah.
I don't like this one. Wait, we've got new toys to play with? I want to be that, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. That could be one of the reasons. It could also be you like the ability of one subclass until you get to a certain level, and then you want to change to a different one because you like its high-level abilities, but you didn't like its low-level abilities. I can't think of any specific examples of that, but I'm sure they exist. But no, this was not the one thing that a lot of people really wanted was the ability to take the same class in two different subclasses, multi-classing like fighter rune knight and fighter battle master.
Yeah.
They did not make it so you can do that, so this did not solve that problem.
And I warn other GMs out there, just in case, a side note, be very, very wary of allowing that possibility in your table. just a helpful hint there, a little advice there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, it's in my opinion, they just did it so that people can continue playing their character with the new toys they got, and there's no reason to do it other than that, realistically.
Yeah. Sure. So the next thing that they put into this book, the next new thing, was of course that many character classes got every character class got some new subclasses, 1, 2, or even 3 new subclasses, I think, for one of them. Yeah. Including Artificer. They needed to put in another Artificer, so there's now 4 Artificer choices instead of just 3. I believe the new one is the Armorer. But this is something that they decided to do. So there's 2 things they really did in the subclass additions. One, every class, I believe, except for the Artificer, got new optional character options apart from the subclasses. As an example, every spellcaster now has the ability to change a cantrip whenever they would gain a stat bonus, stat or feat. So at 4, 8, 12, 16, they can change one of their cantrips to a different cantrip. I think this is a good thing to be able to do.
That's fine.
Just because it does make it so that if you made a mistake, you can change things. Or if it's like, this is a really good low level, but I want to be able to have something better that's still more universally useful at higher level.
Yeah, I totally get that, but from my viewpoint, it's just something that should have been thought of originally. There's no reason that people shouldn't
Look,
be able to bounce out there.
I see your point there, and it's something that most people would say, can I change this? And their GM would probably say yes.
Yeah.
So therefore, what this rule is there for really is that most of these rules are things that are additional options or additional features that probably should have been there originally, but they didn't think of them originally. So they needed to add them at some point, and adding them now is good.
They needed to get the product out there to make the money after the failure of 4th edition. So they had to get it out there. And eventually, a couple of years later,
we're not going to go into that. We're not going to get into that. The other thing, obviously, in subclasses that we need to talk about is all of the new subclasses. Now, one of the major things that they wanted to add in for subclasses here was psionic subclasses. There are 3 psionic subclasses. There is the fighter psionic warrior, there is the rogue psi knife, and then there is the sorcerer aberrant mind.
The aberrant mind.
Yep.
Yes. The psi warrior. Well, now it's called the psi knight. That's basically it's a Jedi. Let's put it. It's a Jedi. It does all the Jedi tricks. It does the leaps. It does the pushes. It does all sorts of wonderful things like that. But it adds a little utility to just I walk up to the warrior. I walk up to my opponent and bash him on the head. You got a little bit of a little flair, little panache in there above and beyond just role playing. But it has like some interesting effects, and it has a nice little thing called a dice. It's sort of reminiscent of a battle master's ability in terms that you get a dice that can add and do nice little things. But it has a little slightly different game mechanic about it.
So I'll tell you guys this. I was a big fan of Psionicis even when it was in the 1st edition, although it was very overpowering to add that skill set to the thing. With Dark Sun coming out, I thought the Psionicis ability was just right. The way they set him for the power level of 2nd edition, and
well, everybody had it.
Yeah, because everyone had it. in the world. In third edition, the Psionics were I mean, even though I liked 3.5, the way they went the Psionics, it was I'll skip the next edition. And this edition, they went back to, they sort of tried to do the second edition Psionics in line with this rule book, and that never works out. And that's where I think the failure is. They were trying to combine the system from a different rule set with this, and in my opinion, it's just they should have gone a slightly different way. It would have been probably better. It just they gave the Psionics points, changed it into dice a little bit, but it's still just not working out with this edition correctly.
Overall, I like the Psionic Warrior and the Psi Knife are both very similar. Both of them work with they get the number of points. The number of points they get, the psionic points they get, is going to be equal to 2 times your proficiency modifier, which is another thing that I really like in a lot of the new classes. They put in things that work in a number of times per day. Instead of just having it be 2 or 3, they decided to have it be your proficiency modifier, which I think makes it better. It makes it so you do get more of them per day without having it be based on your level, or specifically on your level of number of times per day, which makes it go up too fast. For both of the Psionic Warrior and the Psi Knife, I think that the abilities, I agree that I feel like they're more half-assed than anything else. I feel like they wanted to do psionics, but they didn't really want to do psionics, so they were trying to please some people, hope that they could please enough people by putting it in there. The problem is that anyone who really likes psionics is going to think that this is terrible.
It was an add-on.
Which is the reason why it's fine, because I hate psionics.
It was an add-on. I mean, I agree a lot with what Bar said about throughout the editions. First edition, psionics just didn't really sort of belong there. It was powerful, but it was like, The second edition, they actually fleshed it out, and it felt like a completely different system compared to spellcasting. And so it was unique. And third edition, again, just to reiterate, it was there. Again, it didn't feel, you weren't really doing anything different. There's like point expenditure, but yeah. But now it's, like I agree with Jonathan in this regard. It did feel like it's just an add-on that's there. I don't know who they're trying to please, but maybe just by saying Psionics would please some old school fans who clamored for it and say, oh, hey, we have now Psionics in 5th edition. But it's not like, wow, this is a completely different system. It says,
They just, they tried to adjust the best psionic system to the system, but it doesn't work.
Yeah. So overall, there are a lot of new subclasses, and I don't want to do that much in this video because I don't want this video to last that long. There are an enormous number of subclasses. You should definitely take a look at them. Among at least my highlights, I really like the new Druid subclass, which is the stars based. Yeah, I don't remember what it's there's several of them that I think are quite good. There are also a bunch of them that I'm really not that big a fan of, and I don't particularly care. But I do like the fact that they did it in general, and I do like a lot of the fun new options that are out there. It's always nice to have new subclass options. Yes. They also did re-put in the Blade Dancer from Wizard because they wanted to make it so you didn't need to get
Sword
Coast Guide anymore, and that's also something we're going to talk about in spells. And they made a couple of minor changes to the to the Blade Dancer, and the Blade Dancer actually got better. I don't entirely know their reasoning behind that, but the Blade Dancer got better, and I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm not playing that character class again because there's no way that any of my 5th edition groups would let me. So.
For the character class, the way I viewed it is the interesting part is there are a few more that are a little bit more role playing. So, for example, like the Bard Orator gets significant bonuses to diplomacy and deception, and there are other ones that are a little bit more role playing, which is taking away from combat oriented of the system, which I like. But overall, there was just a handful of ones that I thought were really neat and very were cool. The rest of them were either or really, why did you even add this type of opinion.
And that's
I
fair.
liked some of the Circle of the Spores. That sounds like a interesting role playing. I want to be Chicha-chan.
Yeah.
Both at the same time.
The Circle of Spores was definitely one that I looked at and was like,
Also, I agree with Jonathan's assessment earlier. The Rune Knight also looked like an awesome addition. I actually wanted to play that as well. The Bard, basically the one with the what was it? The one you mentioned, the Orator.
Yeah.
College. That's obviously that would. I always thought the Bard already had pretty much the ability to orate with performance skill and charisma skills and illusion spells and other things.
This makes it so you're even better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True enough.
It makes the great greater.
Yeah. I mean, it really pushes him into the role playing. He is the communicator. He is the representative of the party. Yeah.
The thing, of course, is that you need to have the correct group for you to even be able to play that at all.
Yes, totally agree.
Because if certain groups, you try to do some role-playing things like that, and what's going to happen is that someone is going to just interrupt you and terrible things will happen.
Yes.
I haven't had that happen literally twice this week. Wait, no,
just
that's
twice?
happened twice.
I know the people you play. I know the people you play with, Jonathan. It just happened twice. You were lucky.
The thing is, once each game. And I have this problem where I generally end up playing the talker of the group, and I have to do that. So it's really annoying when you're trying to role play the character correctly, and people just interrupt you and start a fight for no reason. Anyway, moving on to the next concept, because that is basically the subclass options. I really do think most of them are at least decent, but there are some of them that are not that great. So the next thing that we need to talk about is their spells. We thought, because, all right, it's Tasha's. Tasha's is known for spells. There's going to be a bunch of new spells, and there's literally like 5 new spells in this. And
I was hoping for a lot of spells named after Tasha. She had more spells in second edition than she did in this edition.
Yeah, in this edition, she now has a total number of spells named after her of 3.
Yeah.
3? Yeah, 3. 1, 2, 3. Now, the first one is still Hideous Laughter, which means that didn't change. Yeah. The other 2 I read, and I was like, okay. Now, the main thing that they did for spells really was that, again, they took the spells from Sword Coast and they put them in here so you don't have to buy that book or you don't have to find that book again. They're condensing it to make it easier for you to work with. And I applaud them for doing so. It makes it so that it's easier to find Green Flame Blade, Booming Blade, Sword Burst, all that stuff. Because they did put in more options recently for you to have fighter-type casters, and that's an important aspect to be able to throw in. One other thing that, of course, I just remembered to say is that most of the spellcasters also did get a small expanded spell list in the character options. And again, I think that's a positive. They made it so that everyone has a few more options to it. Next, we've got to talk about the additional magic items. Many of the additional magic items are ones that have variable abilities, which I thought was interesting. And many of them are also tattoos. And I know the tattoos, I think, came in one of the other books as well. So again, this is more condensing than it is adding new material.
Mm-hmm. I always like addition of new artifacts, mostly not just for the sheer variety of abilities that are attributed to artifacts, but also they are literally campaign hooks, the MacGuffin of any long standing campaign. How to gather one, how to destroy one, all that wonderful things. And I always appreciate and enjoy them for what they are, which is basically story points. Having them is nice, but often they're more trouble than they're worth, as a lot of them are sentient or have incredibly powerful personalities, and there's always the danger of artifact possession with these things.
Right.
That being said, I looked over the tattoos briefly. Always a good idea to have something like that you can't. If you're ever captured, they can't take it away from you unless they recognize.
Oh, yes, they can. If I capture you and you have tattoos, and I know you're bad, we're peeling. We are peeling.
Okay.
That could be rough.
The point is that they are interesting, they're different, they're neat, and they are generally difficult to take away.
Generally, yes, I understand. Well, if you go to another land which they're not familiar with the tattoos and what they can do, all right?
Right. Okay. All right. I'll give you that. But if I'm a villain and I have you and you have tattoos, you're giving up those magic items.
Get a knife.
All right. So just to get away from this point, do we have anything else we want to say about the magic items? Again, the variable abilities, the new artifacts, they are very interesting. Yes. But again, it's something that you've got to decide that you want to put in. Because remember, magic items in this edition are technically optional.
Well, of course.
Yes.
Of course. But
God.
It always adds a little something. I mean, it's traditional. They're in all. You should have some magic items here.
Yeah.
Right. Well, just one more item about the tattoos. The tattoos is one of the things that I really, when they pushed them out in one of the other systems, I really, really like that, because the only other place we had was Ruin Lords that could put the runes onto there, and that was sort of a tattoo in previous edition, and that was only in 3.5. They didn't even do that, and that I thought that's one of the magical items and one of the items that I thought was phenomenal, and I really like it in the system.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last chapter in the book is dealing with new DM options, and I think some of them are a lot of fun. The first thing they did was put in rules for sidekicks. Sidekicks are basically add-ons to the party that one of the players will control. They are not as powerful as a party member. They level up with the party. They're useful. They're helpful. If you've got a small party, it's good to have one, but they're not overpowered, which is great. And also, the rules are there, so one of the players can do it. There's 3 types of sidekicks. You can either have an expert, which is basically your skill monkey, your rogue type, your bard type, whatever you're going to do, like your scribe. You can have your warrior, so you can have someone as a bodyguard or a frontline fighter in case your party doesn't really have one. And the third one is your spellcaster type. Your spellcaster type, depending on what type they are, they can be a wizard type, they can be a cleric type, or they can be an other type. All 3 are good. They are, generally helpful. And I like the idea of putting in sidekicks if you have a small party.
Yeah.
So
something to it.
I mean, honestly, my view of the sidekicks, it's like Sky High, the movie. Are you the superhero or are you psychic support? And
fair enough.
Reality, look, in my view, the second they said sidekick, I originally thought this could be cool. Then I read through it and I was disappointed, because look, whenever you think of sidekick, in my view, who do you think? You think of Robin, and you think of Robin, and he progresses through any version of Robin. Progresses. If he doesn't die, he becomes his own. These will never become their own hero. They are just they're the sidekick of Sky High. They are support, and I don't know.
They're Sancho, and you're Don Quixote. What do you want?
It's it's weak leadership. It's leadership without being able to take the feat, where you can still get something helpful but not something overpowered. I am actually glad they didn't put leadership in this system, because leadership has always been one of those things that the players either use terribly or use and it's massively overpowered, and I'm kind of glad that it's gone. However, the overall concept of being able to do that,
it can be cluttered. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree that leadership is overrated. I like first edition and second edition. Their leadership is just when you become really powerful, you attract men-at-arms, but you have to build a castle, and they maintain your castle.
So the next two things, really, because there's last two GM tools. One is encounters for interesting different places.
Yes.
You have other dimensions. You've got haunts. You've got things like that, and they've got a bunch of, again, these are DM tools to be able to give you more ideas when you want to work with different interesting places to be. Which I think are interesting, but again, it's like I didn't read through every single bit of it because I've had the book for 4 days, and this is also midterm week. I've had to give midterms that I've been grading every day, so I'm sorry. I still have more midterms to grade this weekend. Like, give me a break.
This is the
one I really like, just to mention, is the Mimic Colony. I thought that was very entertaining and very fun.
And the last thing that I want to mention, and also one of my favorites, is they added in the suggestion of being able to give your players puzzles.
Yes.
I really like the puzzles. By the way, there is one other thing that I forgot to mention, which I will get back to after the puzzles. But puzzles, I really like. They give a bunch of examples of puzzles. It's like 20 pages worth of this stuff, including solutions, different options of how to run the puzzle. And I love that, because one of the things that I love is puzzles. The problem is you can't just do riddles over and over again, because everyone has heard most of the riddles. Yes. They're either too hard or too easy. You can't run most simple puzzles because, again, everyone is either too smart to do the puzzle and it's done in 10 seconds, or they're too dumb to do the puzzle and the puzzle never gets done unless you give them enough hints.
It does.
Again, I am not using either of these from experience whatsoever.
Right.
I saw it as a Fibonacci sequence puzzle, and no one understood what it was doing.
And I agree with you. I agree with you that puzzles are interesting and all of that. Here's my one issue with puzzles and riddles. If you're playing a wizard character or you're playing an intelligent-based character, your intelligence is 18, 19, or 20.
Yeah.
In no way, if you do a comparison, are we, any of us, are intelligent 18, 19, or 20. So our characters should be able to solve it much better than we can.
And that is something that is an obvious problem, but at the same time, I mean, I do agree, but at the same time, if there's enough, like, an intelligence and a wisdom, that's an argument between intelligence and wisdom, being able to figure something out like that. Because intelligence, you know these things, but wisdom, you can figure things out. So, and obviously, different expertises and different things will make this easier and make this harder. But that's a reason why, again, they have, for every puzzle, they do have a section on giving hints to make it so that you can give hints without making it too easy.
Right.
I think that overall it's a good concept. It's something that a lot of GMs are not very good at giving. Yeah. And therefore, putting it in is a very big positive, at least to me. And I would have liked to end on that, but I did completely forget about one other section in the book, which was the section on basically the group being hired by the party being hired by a specific group of people. If you look at one of the chapters, and I'm forgetting what it's called. Here it's after the new feats, group patrons. Group patrons is chapter 2. And basically, it's if you want to have your game be run because you're working for a specific person or a specific group, you've got certain advantages for working for that group. You've got certain disadvantages for working for that group. You've got perks. It gives a very easy way of being able to give the group assignments without having them say, I don't want to go do that, or like things like that. It makes it so you can have evil members of the party that will work with good members of the party because they're forced to.
Yes.
So it makes certain aspects of giving missions easier, especially if your players are a little bit too belligerent about it. So the reason why I forgot about it is because of the fact that it's really necessary if you have certain kinds of people in your game, and it's completely unnecessary if you don't. Although, again, I do like the idea of patrons because, as an example, if you're running an evil campaign where everyone's evil, the only way I can think of where your game will progress and have the group work together is if they're working for a patron. If they're working for someone specific who is a greater evil, who is keeping them in line, because otherwise there's no reason why they wouldn't backstab each other in most cases.
Yeah, henchman. Yeah. Here's another thing as well. Even if it's, the alignment is good, certain party members, basically player, actually not character members, as much as they say, oh, it's role playing. It's very much the players who like, oh, I want to go off on my own and do this stuff. And no matter what you do, trying to keep the party together as a dungeon master, sometimes that player just wants to go off on their own. They're lone wolves, whatever it is. And this gives them a reason in story and in game wise, as a mechanic, to say, all right, you guys have to accomplish this because you can't do it alone. We need every single member with your particular skill sets and abilities to accomplish this, and this. Okay?
Right.
And yeah, that's one way. I mean, even it can go as far as every one of you is, if you start an evil campaign, let's just say, every one of them starts out as a prisoner, and every single one of them is bound by some sort of magical item, so they can't run away from each other, otherwise they die. So boom, they immediately are kept together, and they're put on, at least initially.
Or you got a Dirty Dozen scenario.
Yeah, exactly. The Dirty Dozen, exactly right. They're all on death row. You have one chance to, or the Suicide Squad. There you go.
Yep.
That gives me an idea. Hold on.
So summary. so let's do individual summary. Jonathan, what do you think the overall of the book?
Verdict.
The overall verdict for me of the book is it's fine. It's not great. Like, there's several things that I wanted from it that I didn't get, but it's not terrible.
Okay, Mike?
I'm going to say, well, since almost every single thing in this is optional, that's always a good thing to start out with. I'm always of the opinion that more is more, and I would cherry pick certain things of this in the any campaign to run. As far as character choices, some of them are actually really, really interesting, like I said before, and I'd like to play a couple of them. That's about it.
Yeah. So my view is similar. The character classes overall were the role-playing aspects were really good. I like the tattoos because I'm a big fan of the tattoo system. The magic items were decent. The spells, I was waiting for like 20 Tasha spells and got nothing. A couple of the things I think they're going in the right direction of helping with the role playing, which I like, but they simplified. They either simplified it too much or made it too sort of bland. Which, I mean, it's okay. So my overall, it's the book was
Well, so we think the book is okay. We're a little disappointed in a lot of cases. Some things of it are nice, but overall, just it is what it is.
Yeah.
Tell us your opinion. Like if you like the video, dislike if you dislike the video, but let us know what's going on with it overall. Say if you're going to use any of the new classes. Are you excited for anything specific? Is there any specific subclass that you want us to talk about a little bit more? Or anything like that. But until next time, I'm Jonathan from Board Updated.
I'm Michael from Board Updated.
And I'm Boris. Have a good evening.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Peace.